Hello, I'm Sky Matsuhashi, founder of SmartPokerStudy.com, the place for poker players who are always striving to be better today than they were yesterday. Poker people, in case you missed it, episode 115 was about your source of profits at every poker table. Whether it's cash, sit-and-goes, or MTTs, you want to target the FISH, and that stands for Fresh Income Source here. Hey, poker people, we are 2 weeks into the new year, and hey, that means we're 1/26th of the way through this bad boy. Congrats, everyone. Way to go. Hard work, in action, doing it right. We only have 25 more of these left to go until we hit 2018. Let's keep it up. If it's your first time listening, welcome. I'm glad to have you. For the returning poker peeps, thanks for all that you do. It's because of your sharing with friends on Facebook and on Twitter that we're growing. You know, you might not really think of it as sharing with your friends, but when you retweet, when you favorite something, if you post your thoughts, if you mention the show, if you respond to others within various social media groups, you're totally telling your friends what you are into and where you are spending your time and your efforts. So thank you very much for sharing this show with other poker peeps. So this entire month of January, I'm releasing some Patreon-only podcasts in order to build anticipation for January's Patreon theme of mashing the micros. So my goal by doing this is to show you the extra value that Patreon supporters receive, beyond my hugs and kisses, of course. Ultimately, I hope many of you out there will decide to become Patreon supporters so you can receive bonus podcasts and videos and webinar content like what you're about to hear today. So this podcast was first released within Patreon back in August, and August was the first month that I decided to start theming the monthly rewards within Patreon, and I'm happy that I did. Instead of making the monthly podcast topic about this and a training video about that and the webinar about that other topic over there, keeping them all the same is like creating a mini course on the subject, you know? So the title of today's episode says it all. We be breaking down the Rejam. So I'll discuss how you can add significant numbers of chips by 3-bet shoving within MTTs and sit-and-goes, and you do this at the most opportune times. I'll discuss the prime opponents to do this against, the HUD stats that will help in finding good rejam spots, and the best cards to put in your rejamming range. Speaking of the best cards, most of them contain blockers to your opponents having great hands, so we'll get into that as well, you know, blocker talk. Not Donald Trump's locker talk. No, we'll stay away from that. We're going to talk blockers, not lockers. And I'll also cover why your position matters, and we will dive into some 3-bet break-even math. Wow, saying all that, it sounds like it's a ton to cover, so let's go ahead and get to it. Hit the show notes page for everything today at www.smartpokerstudy.com/pod116.
And now for our feature presentation.
As I was thinking about rejamming in this podcast, I came across a really good quote by a guy named Dallin H. Oaks. He was an attorney, a professor, a religious leader who was the 8th president of BYU. He said, "Plan specifically so you can implement flexibly." So that's what this podcast is all about. Creating a plan, knowing when we should be rejamming or when is a good time to rejam, and, implementing it flexibly. So looking at all the factors and determining if it really is a good rejam spot or if we're better off waiting for something in the future. So first off, what is rejamming? Rejamming is a 3-bet bluff shove over a preflop raiser with the intention of stealing his open, the blinds, and the antes. This is a really aggressive way to pick up chips when you need them most because it's normally done in MTTs and sit-and-goes when stacks are typically around 15 to 25 BBs. So you're starting to get into the danger stack category right there. And, any chip that you can add is a good chip. So, for example, if you're at 15 big blinds, it would be great to add 5 big blinds, or 33% to your stack, by making a timely 3-bet bluff shove. And you do this when you know your opponents will have a hard time calling. Heck, if there's an opener and a caller, you're looking at adding 7.5 BBs, which is like 50% of your current 15 big blind stack. What a great result of a good 3-bet bluff squeeze opportunity. So the key part of rejamming is that you're doing it as a 3-bet bluff. That's very important to remember. So let me ask you a question, and I'm serious. I want to hear your answer on this. What's the goal of a bluff? Well, my answer to the question is the goal of a bluff is to get your opponents to fold better hands and win the pot outright then and there. So, with that idea in mind, when you are making your rejam, you want to be relatively sure your opponents will fold and award you the pot. If there's a good chance one or more will call, then it's not an ideal rejam spot, and a different way to play the hand would probably be called for. So before we dive into all the particulars of good rejam spots, let's discuss the perfect rejamming spot. So we're near the money bubble, and effective stacks are somewhere south of 25 big blinds. Let's say we're at 18 big blinds right now. Our opponent opened the pot to 2.5 big blinds from the cutoff, standard open. He's a loose, aggressive 28-22 player with an attempt to steal of 45%. His fold to 3-bet is at 75% over 8 samples. We're on the button, next to act after his open, and we look down to see Ace-5 suited. The blinds are both relatively nitty players, and we only expect to see them give our 3-bet shove with the tippy tops of their range, maybe queens or better. So great opportunity. Let's break it down. First off, we're near the bubble, so most people are less willing to gamble for fear of busting out early. Next, we're facing an open from a guy who steals a lot, so he's on a wide range that probably can't defend very well versus our 3-bet shove. And next, the players in the blinds are nitty, so we can expect folds from both. And lastly, our hand has a very nice ace blocker in it, and due to its suitedness and connectivity, Ace-5 suited, it's still got decent equity versus anyone who might decide to call us. So as you can see, when all the factors line up, it's a great spot to rejam, and we'll get to each of the individual factors pretty soon. If one of the factors was off, like maybe the opener is a nit, or it was an under-the-gun open, or the players in the blinds both had 50 BB stacks, and maybe they were calling stations, those different things might sway our decision a different way. Maybe because of those, we'll decide not to do the rejam. But when your stack is healthy like this, and I consider 18 big blinds to definitely be a healthy near-the-bubble stack, you shouldn't be taking chances with unprofitable rejam spots. With a healthy stack like this, you want to take the low-hanging fruit, the easy pickings, the best, most profitable rejams. You've got the chips to hang on for a bit longer and glide into the money, or even into a higher payout if you're already in the money. So as your stack starts to dwindle though, getting down to 15, then 10, then 8 big blinds, you should be more inclined to rejam with each lost BB and find maybe not a perfect spot, but a really good spot where you think you can accumulate some chips. So let's get into the 3 different considerations for rejams. Those are the opponents, the positions, and your hand. So the first consideration is the opponents. Now, you'll want to consider the type of player the open raiser is and how you think he'll react to your 3-bet shove. Remember, your rejam goal is to get him to fold. It's a bluff, after all. And if you think he'll likely call for whatever reason, then don't make the rejam. High aggression levels in general make for pretty good targets because they're frequently opening and therefore very lightly, so look for these players. You'll also want to consider the players yet to act in the same way. How will they react to your 3-bet shove? Likely folds? Great! Likely callers? Watch out there. And for the players involved, and those yet to act, there are some good HUD stats for you to utilize when thinking about how they will react to your rejam. The first is VPIP and PFR. High aggression is, like I said, a likely target. So look for lags and tags who are likely opening wide, and this is often in the hijack, the cutoff, and the button. Also, the wider the gap between VPIP and PFR, the more likely they'll call your 3-bet shove. So beware of those stationy guys. The next stat is raise first in, or RFI. Especially by position, this is a great stat over a good sample because it will tell you how often they open in the cutoff, in the button, in the small blind, whatever position you're looking at. The higher the better for rejamming over. The next stat is fold to 3-bet, and of course we love seeing a high fold to 3-bet. This normally corresponds to high levels of aggression, as the wider they open, the less likely they have something to defend versus the 3-bet. But there are players out there who open really wide and call 3-bets quite liberally, so those guys are the ones you'll want to watch out for. The notes and observations on your opponents will help you in this regards. The final stat that I want you to look at is cold call 3-bet. So this can be a helpful stat for determining how likely those still to act will cold call, as well as it'll give you the original raiser's view of 3-bets. High cold call numbers should help to dissuade you from rejamming. And of course, with the players and their stats, you also need to pay attention to their stack size, and because they're just super, super important. If the open raiser has a monster stack, don't expect folds that often. Same for those yet to act. Conversely, super short stacks like sub 10 big blinds are more likely to call, as they may feel the need to gamble it up and double up with anything playable. Try to target mid stacks that will be knocked out or really hurt by doubling you up. Alrighty, so that's the considerations about our opponents. The next is you want to consider the positions. So regarding the players, you want to think about the opener and yourself, your positions in this instance. If the opener is under the gun, then most likely he's on a tighter range. But if it's the cutoff or the button, then they're more likely to be stealing with a wider range. Couple their position with their player type to get an idea of the opening range. The bigger the gap between their opening range and their 3-bet continuation range, the more likely they'll be folding. And your position is important as well, because the earlier you are, the more players your 3-bet has to get through. On the button, you've only got the blinds and the original raiser to worry about. But from under the gun +2, you've got 7 players to worry about. MP, MP2, cutoff, button, small blind, big blind, and the opener. Your 3-bet bluffs have a better chance of working in later position versus fewer opponents. And of course, part of position, I'm going to lump in the tournament situation. So pre-antes, you should be rejamming tighter because people are they're opening tighter as there's not enough in the pot yet to fight for. Near the bubble, people are scared of busting and will fold more readily. And in the money, people are often content with walking away with cash, so they'll call you more readily. Just be sure to couple the tourney situation with the players to think about how their decisions will be affected. Okay, so the third consideration is the actual hand that you're dealt. And this is the third consideration on the list because it's actually the least important. You'll find plenty of spots where everything else lines up for the perfect rejam, but you're dealt 3 deuce off. If it's perfect, it's probably any 2 cards perfect. So you can rejam with the 3 deuce off, the jack 4 off, the pocket 6s, or the ace 8 suited. Perfect is perfect, and if you expect them to fold often enough, you can do it with any 2 cards. But we also don't want to abuse our rejamming powers, because players will get tired of it and eventually look us up with an ace, or a small to medium pocket pair, or king-queen, something like that. It's best if we have some equity when called. Suited connectors have great post-flop playability, as well as suited aces and kings. Strong Broadway hands and pocket pairs do as well. For more on post-flop playability, check out an article I wrote at www.smartpokerstudy.com/pf playability. It discusses playability and gives you great charts on the playability of each hand. So when considering our actual hand, you want to think about blockers. So some great hands to include in your 3-bet rejam range are ace and king blockers. The fact that you have an ace or a king makes it less likely that your opponents will have a hand worthy of calling your 3-bet. So for a quick example, there are 16 combos of ace-king and 6 combos of pocket aces, making for a total of 22 hands that would call your 3-bet. Let's say you've got the ace of spades. Having this effectively blocks 4 combos of ace-king and 3 combos of aces, making it so now they only have 15 hands of ace-king or aces to call you with. So by having that ace of spades blocker, you've made it less likely they're calling you. Okay, so those are the 3 considerations. First off, of course, was the opponents. The second was the positions of all the players involved. And of course, the third one is your hand. I know you want to support the show, and one way you can do so is by visiting today's sponsor, habwin.com. That's Habwin, HABWIN.com. I know you like online poker just like me. What if you could win prizes at 0 cost? With Habwin, you can do exactly that. You can play free, exclusive $100 free rolls on Party Poker and BWin. Check out our winter free rolls every Sunday at 8 p.m. Central European Time. It's your chance to jump at the opportunity to win extra cash completely for free, guaranteed for free, no cost out of your pocket. Register now at www.habwin.com/free rolls to start the fun. So, if you can, play on Party Poker or BWin. Support the show by visiting Habwin and registering for free. Once again, that's www.habwin.com/free rolls. Alrighty, poker peeps, let's get back to the rejam and some break-even math. Now let's dive into the break-even math. And of course, we can't talk about the profitability of rejamming without covering the math involved. So if we look at the break-even percentage, this tells you how often your bet needs to result in folds for it to be break-even in profitability. The break-even percentage is the amount of your bet divided by the total pot including your bet. So looking at that 15 big blind shove example from earlier, you're risking 15 big blinds to win 5 big blinds, which includes the open raise, the blinds, and the antes. So 15 divided by 20, which is the total pot you're trying to win, equals 75%. So you need everyone to fold 75% of the time to make this a break-even play. If you think the opener is raising a wide range, but will only continue with pocket queens or better and ace-king, then he's likely folding more than 75% of the time. And if you think the blinds are folding all but kings or better, then it's a profitable rejam at this sizing. Now, this wouldn't be the Smart Poker Study podcast if I didn't discuss with you a bit on how to study rejamming in MTTs. So, for all the aspects of rejamming we just discussed, studying the following topics will really benefit your understanding of, and the ability to spot great rejamming opportunities. You can find links to these resources in the Patreon email that you received. So, first off is player types and characteristics. I recommend that you check out podcast number 12 at www.smartpokerstudy.com/pod12. And in this podcast, I really dove into player types and I gave you a poker player types PDF, and you can use that for quick reference on characteristics and ways to exploit them. You also need to practice using the key stats I discussed to gain deeper understanding of your opponents. The next thing you want to study and really understand is position, and there's a simple but great article on position that I found over at pokerlistings.com, and you can find the link in the email. The next thing you want to study is post-flop playability. So read that article that I already mentioned at www.smartpokerstudy.com/pf playability. You can also use Flopzilla like I did, to find out how often each hand hits flops on your own. Actually, I suggest doing this work on your own instead of going over the article or doing the work and reading the article. You'll learn more from doing this work on your own rather than reading what I say about it. And of course, study and practice that break-even math. I wrote a good article on utilizing the break-even formula. Read the article and practice doing the math in your own hand history reviews when you want to see the break-even point of different bet sizings you make. And of course, on top of studying each of these topics, you should do hand history reviews, of your rejamming spots. And you can do this for both online and live hands played. For online, it's so much easier to review those hands because of programs like Poker Tracker 4 that record every single detail of every hand you play. To filter for rejamming opportunities within MTTs, here are the filters that you'd use. Set the effective stack size under the pot size and stack depth pre-flop sub-menu. Set that stack size for 15 to 25 big blinds. Under actions and opportunities, turn on 3-bet facing 2-bet under the re-raise opportunity submenu, and this will show you all the hands where you had the opportunity to 3-bet, whether you did or not. And for live hands, you just need to be very diligent and detailed in the notes that you take. Stack sizes, positions, hole cards, reads on opponents, and the stage of the tourney are all key things to record so that you can replay the hand accurately after the tournament. So whether live or online, once you have your hands to review, you need to think about the players involved, your position, the hand strength, and the break-even math to determine if it's truly a good spot to rejam profitably. Use programs like Flopzilla to nail down the opponent's opening and continuation ranges, and how well your actual hand fares versus their continuation range. Okay, to recap, we discussed what rejamming is and how ultimately it's a bluff, so we're looking for folds. That's the key concept that you need to keep in mind. I went over the perfect rejamming spot, then discussed the factors that made it perfect. Those factors were the opponents we were up against, the stack sizes and positions of everybody, the hand that we held, and the tournament conditions. We also covered some break-even math to see how often we need folds from our opponents to make the rejam profitable, and we covered the ways you can study more to gain greater insight and become a more effective rejammer. Challenge! Here's my challenge to you for this episode. I want you to develop your rejamming skills at the beginning of your next tournament and every one after that. Be on the lookout for rejamming opportunities at 15 to 25 big blind effective stacks. The more you actively try to search these out, the more you'll find. But I want you to make sure you're picking the best spots, the low-hanging fruit, where all the factors align to make it a perfect rejamming spot. The more you work on it, the sooner it will become an integral part of your MTT arsenal. So get to it, and let me know how it goes, yo! Now it's your turn to take action and do something positive for your poker game.
Now get it on!
Thank you so much for listening today, and once again, thank you for your current and future Patreon support. It's super duper poker peeps like you who keep me going, so I'm really appreciative of all that you do. Visit www.patreon.com/smartpokerstudy to learn more and to get in on January's theme of mashing the micros. And don't forget to visit today's show notes at www.smartpokerstudy.com/pod116 for links to everything discussed today. And of course, I want to thank our show sponsor today, habwin.com. Check out their winter free rolls every Sunday, 8 p.m. Central European Time. Visit www.habwin.com/free rolls to learn more and to register for free. Alrighty, poker peeps, next week in episode 117, I will discuss something that will benefit every listener, no matter what game or stakes you play, and that is hand reading. Until next time, study smart, play much, and make your next session the best one yet.
I wanna rise,